At its core, an FPS should do one thing well: be a power fantasy. Story, characters, and motivations are all secondary. The only thing that truly matters is giving you, the player, a sense of endless might and agency within its universe. In other words, violence without context is king. Now there's a ton of FPS games out there that try to take this approach. In fact, it was part of the core design ethos when the genre was founded. Bare bones story and meaty action. That's how you keep the people invested. Dread Templar, Post Void, Dusk, Bulletstorm are fantastic examples of putting player action first and world building second. And it all comes down to satisfying gunplay. But gunplay is a fickle beast. It isn't something made up of a single component, but rather a series of complex systems. First and foremost, being sound design. In many movies and games, guns are often nerfed to sound weaker than they really are. Silencers make rifles sound like Nerf guns, pistols could be mistaken for pea shooters, and even the ripping roar of an M60 can sound downright anemic in the wrong hands. This all comes down to the lack of echo and low end for the recordings. A real gunshot in any space will have ringing echo that bounces all around the player, surrounding and enveloping them. You have to hear the ringing highs and the rumbling lows. This is called dynamic range, and its balance is crucial to satisfying gunplay. Even movie makers realize this, with the 1995 movie Heat abandoning studio-recorded weapon sounds and just recording the raw audio of the guns themselves firing in the actual environment. The result is fantastic, completely immersing the viewer in the story and delivering that deep, resounding bass that rattles you to your core. For games, the Battlefield War Tapes audio does this incredibly, giving an uncompressed sound to all weapons and environmental effects, truly allowing the player to feel like they're firing a dangerous weapon instead of listening to a neutered version of one. Insurgency Sandstorm is another great example of this approach, with the developers aiming to show the weapons in their true terrifying form, pulling no punches and compressing nothing, giving the game a particularly thrilling sensation when played through headphones or any decent speaker system. This is especially important when it comes to different surfaces and environments within the game, with sound waves bouncing off differently depending on where a weapon is fired.
Loading! Loading! Down on the ground! Do it!
But all the booms in the world doesn't matter if there's no fall, and seeing just how the weapons and targets react to your blast is essential. You want to feel like you're profoundly affecting things in the world, that your presence is a mark of chaos. This is where enemy feedback comes in, with body-specific damage and convincing animation work doing the heavy lifting. Let's take a look at bad enemy feedback. Look at how the enemy barely reacts to getting shot, giving little weight to your weapons or power. The animations are canned and non-dynamic, just repeating the same cycles over and over, even when using different weapons. And the actual impact of your weapons is quite weak, with hardly any recoil or momentum put behind your shots, and little to no blood spray or gore. It's like you're throwing pillows at them. The poor handling animations, lack of environmental or enemy wounds, and the dull impacts prevent you from truly feeling in control of the character. However, when it's done right, it's a sublime experience. The Soldier of Fortune series has been heralded for its extreme depictions of carnage with its uniquely interactive enemies. Arms and legs can be blown off, characters will crawl and cry out in agony, and everybody seems to be a meat piñata with 20 pounds of blood in a 10-pound body. It's quite a sight. Every part of handling for weapons also comes into play, like reloads for example. Those solid chunky sounds mixed with those weighty animations feel great, and watching them on their own is something to look forward to. Insurgency and Battlefield once again do this very well. But just because it's weighty and heavy doesn't mean the gameplay has to be slow. Rage 2, the sequel to one of the best feeling FPS games ever, has an incredible combination of top-notch animations, brutal violence, and non-stop speed that makes you feel like a tornado of turmoil. The way the environments and enemies all contort and bend to whatever punishment you dish out makes it visceral to play. And because you have so many movement options, sliding, wall jumping, and dashing, it makes each fight feel different and compelling. So what game perfects all these concepts? What game stands above the rest and delivers exactly what an FPS should each and every time? First Encounter Assault Recon, f.e.a.r, the most perfect FPS game ever created. This footage is from Rabbids Respawn, somebody that I personally love, and someone who truly understands the game and knows just how to bend it to his will. Just look at this madness! The sheer havoc on display is unmatched. From the incredible sound design that makes each weapon feel like a tool of the gods, to the destructible environments that tear apart like tissue paper, all accented by the slow motion that enhances each moment to ecstasy. That last factor is what really gives f.e.a.r its flavor, the ability to slow down time and watch all of your handiwork in excruciating detail as you lay waste to everything in your past. That's why you keep coming back. It isn't excessive in any quality either. Despite being a horror game, traditionally, it's actually less graphic than Soldier of Fortune and relies more on enemy AI and animation to lead you from fight to fight. You're always being challenged and surprised in f.e.a.r, and while you will see the same drab office set pieces throughout the game, the mark you leave on them will be unique each time. Just look at the shockwaves that erupt from an explosive, how they travel across the room, and how they make contact with you and the enemies. That's a detail I've never seen in a game before. Or since, as a matter of fact. The tracers from the bullets whizzing by you feel so dangerous, and their jagged motion trails really convey a sense of speed and heft. Light and shadow are also important here, with the muzzle blast of your weapons sparking entire rooms from darkness and illuminating the cold faces of the enemies. It's why the game still looks so good to this day. Tight lighting and art design. No matter how you dispatch scrubs, with your kicks, shotguns, grenades, filling a room with maroon mist never gets old. And if you want to experience perfection, you owe it to yourself to play it.